The alien fleet moved into the dark side of Earth's orbit. Their engines hummed with steady power, but inside the command decks, there was tension. For many cycles, they had traveled across galaxies, breaking weak worlds and forcing species to kneel. Every world they had visited had either surrendered quickly or burned to ashes. They expected Earth to be the same, just another planet waiting to be taken. Yet, something felt different here. The space around Earth was quiet, too quiet. Usually, when fleets approached a new world, signals filled the comms. There would be desperate messages begging for mercy, or angry voices shouting in defiance. Here, there was nothing, only static and silence. The commanders frowned, wondering if the humans had already given up without a fight. But deep inside, the silence felt wrong. It was not the silence of surrender. It was the silence of waiting. Captain Vayner of the lead ship narrowed his eyes. His claws tapped against the console, an old habit when his instincts screamed danger. Ordered scans of the planet and surrounding orbit, the machines whirred. But the results confused them. No fleets, no satellites, no defense lines. Earth looked exposed, like a defenseless prey left in the open. Some officers smirked, believing this would be easy. But Vayner did not smile. He had fought too many wars to believe in gifts that came. Too easily, reports continued to arrive. The planet's surface showed lights of cities. Billions of humans were still there, living, breathing, unaware of what was coming, but still no one tried to communicate. No governments, no armies, no warnings. It was as if the planet dared the fleet to come closer. The younger soldiers whispered. Among themselves, maybe humans do not even have ships, one said. Maybe they are still primitive, another replied. They laughed, but their laughter was nervous. Even they could feel something was not right. The silence pressed down on them like a heavy weight. It was not empty silence. It was alive, almost watchful. The fleet drifted closer to the planet. Their formation tightened. Ships aligning like sharp teeth of a predator. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready for battle. But still, no human warship came to face them. The stars around Earth flickered. The blue and green world looked calm. To calm, it was a picture of peace. But to the fleet, it felt like the calm before a storm. On the bridge of the command ship, the screens lit up with data. The officers kept scanning, their voices sharp with confusion. Nothing, they said again and again. No ships, no defenses, nothing. The captain's tail lashed against the floor. He did not like this, not at all. He had studied human history before the mission. The records were strange, filled with wars, endless wars, unlike other species who fought only for survival. Humans fought each other again and again, and still they endured. That thought haunted him now. A people who lived in constant conflict would never leave their home undefended. The silence grew heavier. It wrapped around the fleet like invisible chains. Every second felt longer. Every crew member felt eyes watching them. But the scanners showed no ships, no hidden fleets, nothing but the planet below. The alien soldiers began to fidget, claws tapping, tails twitching, voices hushed. Fear, unspoken but real, was spreading. One officer broke the silence. "Captain, maybe they are hiding in the atmosphere," he suggested. Another added, "Or maybe underground." Bases, the captain did not answer. He just stared at the planet. Something in his instincts told him that the truth was far worse. This silence was not weakness. It was a message. It was the kind of silence that comes before the first strike of a hunter. And for the first time in many years, Captain Vayner wondered if his fleet was the prey, not the predator. The fleet waited, engines low. Weapons charged, eyes locked on the world below. The humans remained silent, and the silence itself became a weapon. A weapon sharper than any blade, heavier than any cannon for the alien fleet. This was not the welcome they expected. This was the beginning of fear. The strange silence was their first warning, but none of them yet understood just how dangerous humans could be. Asterisk, the alien fleet continued to circle Earth. The silence had already unsettled them, but the mission had to go forward. Their orders were clear: send a message, demand surrender, and prepare for conquest. The command ship activated its long-range transmitter. A powerful voice, translated into human language, echoed across the void. This world now belongs to the Vayner Dominion. Surrender or be destroyed. The words were carried on multiple frequencies. They were sent in every human language the fleet had decoded. There was no way the people of Earth could miss it. On alien ships across the formation, officers waited for a response, normally. The comms would soon fill with frightened voices. Every other world had begged for mercy within minutes. But this time nothing came back. The silence remained, heavier than before. The captain frowned. "Send it again," he ordered. The crew obeyed, broadcasting the same demand 3 more times. Still, there was no reply, no voice, no signal, not even static. It was as if the humans had heard the threat and simply ignored it. The younger soldiers grew restless. Maybe they did not understand, one said. Maybe their technology is too weak to respond, another suggested, but the captain knew better. Humans were not ignorant. They had reached into space, built colonies, fought wars, even among the stars. They had the ability to respond. But they had chosen silence. That choice carried weight on Earth. Billions of humans surely heard the alien declaration. Cities kept their lights burning. Airplanes still crossed the skies. No evacuations, no chaos. It looked like life continued as normal. This puzzled the fleet even more. Every other world had panicked the moment a war fleet appeared, but humans acted as though nothing unusual had happened. This calm was unnatural. It was like staring into the eyes of prey that refused to run. The fleet's second-in-command urged a different path. "Captain, maybe we should fire a warning strike. Show them we are serious," the captain hesitated, his instincts whispering caution. But the silence was unbearable. "Target one of their satellites," he finally said. Moments later, a beam of energy tore through the void. A small human satellite exploded into fragments, the debris scattered, glowing briefly as it burned. In the atmosphere, the fleet expected panic. They expected cries for peace. Instead, they got nothing. The silence deepened, almost mocking them. One officer growled in frustration, "This is not normal, Captain," they should have answered. Another muttered, "What if they are waiting for something?" The captain's claws clicked against the arm of his chair. He hated mysteries, and war, mysteries killed armies. He ordered another scan of the space around them. Again, the results came back clean. Nothing but empty orbit and the blue world below. But this time, the sensors picked up something faint. A ripple, far away in the darkness. It disappeared too quickly to track. The crew argued if it was just static or something more. The captain felt the weight in his chest grow heavier. "Keep watching," he commanded. "Do not blink." The silence turned the crew into prisoners of their own thoughts. Some whispered that maybe humans were too afraid to answer. Others believed the silence was part of a trick, but no one could agree. The uncertainty spread through the fleet like poison. Discipline slipped. Voices rose. Claws scraped against metal. The captain roared to quiet them, but even his voice carried unease. Hours passed. Still no response. Still no signal. The only sound on the comms was the quiet hiss of empty frequencies. At last, something changed. Voice came through. Not loud, not angry, but calm, almost casual. It was a human voice. Translated automatically into the alien's language. "You called us," the voice said. "We heard you." The words froze the bridge. Every officer turned to the speakers. The voice continued. "Smooth and steady, you wanted us to surrender. But we are not like the others you have faced. You came to take our world. Now we will show you what that means." And then the transmission ended. No threats, no shouting, no demands. Just silence once again. But this time the silence felt heavier, sharper. It felt like a blade pressed against the throat of the entire fleet. The captain's scales prickled with unease. He had wanted a reply, but this was worse than nothing. This was a warning wrapped in calm words. He looked at the stars, at the endless black space beyond. And for the first time since the mission began, he wished he had never come to Earth. Alien fleet had demanded surrender. They had expected fear instead. They had awakened something else, a species that refused to tremble, a silence that was no surrender. This was the beginning of something far darker, and deep down, every alien The officer could feel it. The first contact had gone wrong, terribly wrong. The alien fleet held position above Earth. The silence after the human message was worse than before. No threats, no panic, no cries for help, just that calm voice that vanished into nothingness. The fleet expected resistance. They expected fleets of human ships rushing forward. Instead, the void stretched around them, dark and endless. It felt empty, but it did not feel safe. The captain sat in his command chair, his claws restless against the steel armrest. His eyes scanned the data flowing across the screens, numbers, coordinates, energy readings. None of it showed danger, but danger was there. He could feel it in his bones. It was not the kind of danger that screamed. It was the kind that whispered, and whispers were always more deadly. A sudden alarm rang on the left console, something on long-range sensors. An officer shouted. The bridge fell silent as every crew member leaned forward. At first, it looked like nothing, just a faint blur at the edge of detection. The officer adjusted the filters. The blur sharpened, taking shape. It was too far to identify. But it was moving slowly, steadily, closer. The captain's eyes narrowed. Is it debris? He asked, his voice cold. No, Captain, the officer replied. It is too large, too controlled. Another officer added, it reflects no standard signals, but it is not natural. The fleet's tension grew heavier. Some whispered it was a ship. Others said it was a shadow, but the truth was simple. They did not know. The blur grew clearer with every scan. It looked massive, far larger than any human design the fleet had studied. But still, it remained faint, like it was wrapped in darkness. Itself, the captain ordered all ships into tighter formation. Weapons charged, shields raised, engines humming with nervous power. The alien soldiers gripped their stations, their eyes locked on the shadow. Minutes passed like hours. The blur grew into a shape. It was not sharp, not clear, but it was there. Its outlines stretched across the sensors, like the skeleton of some ancient beast. Every officer stared in silence. The shape was too big, far too big for a human vessel. Impossible, someone whispered. Humans cannot build something like this. The captain did not reply. He knew humans had fought wars for thousands of years. They had built weapons beyond reason. If any species could create such a thing, it was them. But still, the size of it chilled him. If this was a ship, it was not just a machine, it was a monster. The shadow drifted closer, but it did not rush. It did not attack. It moved like a predator circling prey, slow and patient. Every sensor tried to lock on, but signals broke apart. The readings were twisted, unreadable. It was as if the ship wanted to be seen only in fragments, enough to terrify, never enough to understand. The younger soldiers grew restless. Why did they not fire? One demanded. Why show us shadows instead of striking? Another hissed. The captain silenced them with a glare. They are not showing weakness, he said slowly. They are showing control. Those words silenced the bridge. The idea was more frightening than any weapon. Then, for the briefest moment, the shadow shifted. The darkness peeled away, and the fleet saw a glimpse of armor. Black steel scarred with old battles, lines of weapons stretching along its sides. Massive cannons that could split moons. The glimpse lasted only seconds before. The ship blurred again, but it was enough. Every alien on the bridge felt the same chill crawl down their spines. The captain's heart pounded. This was no ordinary vessel. This was a warship built for one purpose: fear. It did not need to attack. To win, it only needed to be seen. The shadow moved again, closer, slower. Like it was savoring the moment, the alien fleet held still. No one dared move. No one dared fire. Every second stretched longer than the last. The silence wrapped tighter around them. The shadow filled their screens. And in that silence, the aliens finally understood. Humans did not need numbers to fight. They only needed one warship. And the first look at it was enough to freeze an entire fleet. The captain gripped the arms of his chair, his voice low, almost a whisper. This is no shadow, he said. This is the beginning. Asterisk. The alien fleet floated in tight formation. Their weapons glowed faintly, ready to fire. Their scanners kept trying to pierce the shadows, but the massive shape in the void refused to give itself fully. It moved slowly, like a giant beast waking from a long sleep. Every officer on the bridge held their breath. Even the captain's steady claws trembled against the steel. Then it happened. The shadows thinned. The blur sharpened, and for the first time, the fleet saw it clearly. A human warship, vast and terrible, emerged from the dark. Its hull was scarred, each mark telling the story of battles survived. Its armor was black, lined with glowing seams of power. It was not sleek like alien ships. It was heavy, brutal, built for war and nothing else. The bridge filled with silence. Not the silence of space, but the silence of fear. Every alien soldier felt the weight of it pressing into their chest. This was not a fragile craft, not a desperate defense. This was a predator, and they had wandered into its hunting ground. The warship's design was strange. It did not shine with beauty or elegance. It looked raw, dangerous, like a weapon forged only to kill. Massive cannons lined its flanks. Each cannon was large enough to tear apart entire ships with one strike. Its front bristled with missile silos. Its rear glowed with engines that could burn through darkness itself. It was not just a ship, it was a fortress drifting in the void. The captain's eyes widened. This is not possible, he whispered. The fleet had studied human technology. According to their records, humans had ships, but nothing close to this. No data had prepared them for such a monster. And yet here it was, alive and waiting. The younger soldiers stared in horror. One muttered, "It looks old," and he was right. The warship bore scars that no new vessel would ever carry. Burns from plasma strikes, deep gouges from missile impacts. It had survived battles, too many to count. It had killed and lived again. Every scar was proof of survival, and survival was the most terrifying weapon of all. The ship did not rush, it did not fire, it simply moved forward, calm and steady. Its silence was more frightening than any threat. It was like a hunter studying prey, deciding when to strike. And the fleet realized something they had never felt before. They were not the predators here. They were prey frozen in the path of a beast. The warship broadcast no name, no flag, no signal of peace. Only its presence filled the void, but on the hull, faint symbols glowed. Old human writing, battle marks, unit numbers. To the aliens they meant nothing. But to the humans who built it, those marks were a legacy. The ship carried the weight of human history. Wars fought, victories earned, enemies crushed. It was a floating memory of human willpower, and that memory alone was enough to terrify. The second in command spoke, his voice trembling. "Captain, if they had one ship like this, how many more do they hide?" The captain did not answer, because he knew the truth. One ship was enough. If the humans had more, the galaxy itself was in danger. The warship drew closer. Its sheer size dwarfed the alien fleet. It was not just large, it was colossal. Alien ships looked like insects beside it. The crew felt smaller with every passing moment. Their weapons, their armor, their courage, everything seemed weak. For the first time in generations, the fleet felt powerless. The captain's voice broke the silence. "Hold fire," he commanded. Some officers turned in shock. "Captain, if we strike now, hold fire," the captain repeated, louder, because deep in his heart, he knew something. If they fired first, it would not be war. It would be suicide. The warship stopped, not too close, not too far. It simply hung in the void, watching them. Its cannons glowed faintly. Hull shimmered with power, but it did not move to attack. The waiting was worse than any strike. The fleet's claws twitched, tails lashed, hearts raced, but none dared make the first move then. The lights along the warship's side flickered, a signal, ancient but clear. It was not a request for surrender. It was not a warning. It was a statement. The humans were here. They had come to stand between Earth and its enemies, and they were not afraid. The captain's claws dug into steel. His voice dropped to a whisper. "We thought they were weak," he said. "We thought wrong." The warship floated in silence. Its presence alone froze the fleet, and in that moment, every alien soldier understood they had not discovered prey. They had awakened a predator, and the predator had finally shown its face. The alien fleet stared at the human warship. It hung in the void like a mountain of steel, silent, immovable, and terrifying. No weapons fired. No words were spoken, and yet the weight of its presence crushed the fleet harder than any attack. On the command bridge, whispers began to spread. Soldiers exchanged nervous glances. Many of them had never seen such a ship. But some of the older officers had heard stories. Legends whispered in the dark corners of space. Stories about humanity. Stories that were never meant to be true. One officer broke the silence. His voice was low, almost a whisper. "I have heard of them before," he said. The others turned to him, eyes wide with unease. "They say humans are not like other species," he continued. "They fight wars for reasons no one understands. Wars that last generations. They say humans do not stop until their enemy is destroyed." The younger soldiers laughed nervously. But the laughter carried no joy. It was weak, hollow, like a shield against fear. The captain fixed his gaze on the warship. He had also heard such rumors long ago, but he had never believed them. To him, humans were a young race, loud and reckless. But now, looking at this monster of steel, the captain was no longer sure. Another officer spoke. "I once fought near the Rim Worlds," he said. "We found wrecks there, human wrecks. But do you know what was strange?" The others leaned closer. They were ancient ships, centuries old, and yet the weapons still worked. Even broken, they fought back. The bridge fell silent. The thought of dead ships that refused to die was too much. The captain's claws clicked against the console. He remembered the old warnings from their historians. Human history was not like the histories of other worlds. Other species built civilizations, rose in peace, and only fought when forced. Humans were different. Humans made war a part of their identity. They did not just fight to survive. They fought to grow. They fought each other. Over land, over power, over pride. And every time they grew stronger. No war broke them. No enemy ended them. Every war only sharpened them further. The captain's voice was low, heavy. "We thought they would be simple to conquer," he said. "But if even half of these stories are true, then we face something far worse." The second in command shivered. "They are one world, Captain. Only one." The captain shook his head slowly. "One world is enough, if it is Earth." The warship drifted closer, its massive guns visible. Now, the scars along its hull burned like warnings written in steel. Every alien I studied it, and in that silence, more stories were remembered. Stories of human soldiers who fought long after their armies had fallen. Stories of human colonies that burned rather than kneel. Stories of human ships that rammed enemies when ammunition was gone. No one could say where these stories had started. But all who heard them knew one thing. They carried the same truth. Humans never gave up. The fleet's morale began to wither. The silence of the warship was no longer just silence. It was proof. Proof that the humans were not afraid. They did not need to shout. They did not need to threaten. Their history already spoke louder than words. The second in command looked at the captain. "What do we do if they attack?" he asked. The captain's claws dug deeper into the steel. His mind filled with images of burning fleets and endless battles. He thought of every rumor he had dismissed. And now he realized those rumors might not have been warnings. They might have been promises, one young soldier whispered too loudly. "They cannot defeat all of us," but no one answered him, because deep inside, they all knew the truth. This was not just one ship. This was a symbol, and symbols were stronger than armies. The warship sent no transmission. Silence said everything. The fleet, once full of pride and power, now felt small. And the more they stared at that ship, the more they remembered. They remembered what made humans different. It was not technology. It was not numbers. It was their will. A will so strong that even the galaxy whispered about it. The captain closed his eyes. His voice shook as he spoke. "We are not facing prey," he said. "We are facing hunters. The bridge grew colder. Every soldier felt it. The weight of reputation, the fear of history, the shadow of humanity's endless wars, and as the warship hovered in silence, every alien officer realized one thing. They were not looking at the first human ship. They were looking at the legend that came before it, a legend that every soldier in the galaxy had heard but never believed until now. Asterisk, the human warship drifted forward until it faced the alien fleet. No weapons fired, no words were spoken. It was only silence. Heavier than the weight of stars, the alien ships held there. Formation. Weapons glowing faintly, but none dared make the first move. The void between them became a battlefield of nerves, a battle of patience, a battle of fear. On the command bridge of the alien flagship, tension rose like a storm. The crew shifted. In their seats, eyes fixed on the massive warship, its black hull shimmered with scars. Its cannons pointed forward like the gaze of predators. The captain's claws tapped against the console. Every second of waiting carved deeper into his chest. He had fought wars across dozens of systems, but never had he faced an enemy that did not even need to fight to win. The second-in-command spoke nervously. "Captain, should we open fire?" The words cut through the air like a blade. The crew turned to the captain. Waiting for his answer, his eyes narrowed, his heart heavy. If they fired first, the warship would answer. And something told him the answer would be final. No. He said at last, his voice rough. Not yet. The alien fleet waited. Engines hummed. Weapons pulsed with restrained power. The human warship simply hovered. It did not charge weapons. It did not shield itself. It acted as though it had nothing to fear, and that calm was worse than any aggression. The younger soldiers whispered, "Maybe it is a bluff," one muttered. Another hissed, "Maybe the ship is damaged. Maybe it cannot fire." But even as they spoke, their voices shook. The warship's silence was not weakness. It was confidence. The kind of confidence that came only from absolute power. The captain stared at the warship's scars. Each one was proof of survival. Each one was a warning written in steel. "Ships like that do not bluff," he growled, and his words silenced. The whispers, the standoff stretched on. Minutes felt like hours. The void pressed down on both sides. Yet it was the aliens who felt the weight. Their hands twitched on controls, claws scraped against steel. Every heartbeat screamed for action. But no one dared to begin. The warship shifted slightly, not closer, not farther. Just enough to remind the fleet it was alive. The motion was smooth, deliberate, like a predator flexing its claws before the strike. The alien ships tensed, weapons aimed tighter. One mistake, one spark, and the void would explode, on Earth below. Billions of humans lived under the shadow of the standoff. Cities still glowed with light. The planet looked calm, untouched by the fear in orbit. But the aliens watching knew the truth. This calm was not ignorance. It was defiance. The humans trusted their warship. They trusted their hunters in the void. The second-in-command broke the silence again. "Captain, if we retreat now, we will look weak," he warned. "If we stay, we risk destruction." The captain's jaw tightened. He knew both were true. Retreat meant shame. Battle meant death. The warship had trapped them without firing a single shot. The captain rose from his chair. His voice echoed through the bridge. "Hold position," he commanded. "Let them make the first move." The order spread through the fleet. Dozens of ships locked into place, engines ready, weapons steady. But their hearts were restless, because deep down, they knew the humans were in no hurry. The standoff dragged on. The void between them grew heavier. It was no longer space. It was a wall of fear and silence. The aliens stared at the warship, and the warship stared back. Neither side blinked. Neither side spoke. Hours passed. The alien fleet grew weary. Crew members shifted uneasily. Whispers filled the halls. Every soldier wondered the same thing. Why did the humans not attack? Why did they wait? And the more they wondered, the more the fear grew. Because only a predator with complete control could afford to wait. Only a predator could hold silence. As a weapon, the aliens realized something terrible. The humans were not waiting for fear. They were feeding it. Every minute of silence cut deeper. Every second of waiting made the aliens weaker. The humans knew it, and they enjoyed it. The captain clenched his fists. His voice was low, filled with dread. "This is their war," he whispered. "This is how they fight. Not with quick strikes, not with words, but with patience, with silence." They forced their enemies to crumble from within. The warship floated motionless. Its cannons quiet, its engines steady, but its presence devoured the courage of the fleet. And though not a single shot had been fired, the standoff was already a battle, and the humans were winning. The standoff stretched longer than anyone expected. The alien fleet held their formation, engines burning low, weapons armed but unused. The human warship floated opposite them, silent, unmoving, yet terrifying. Hours turned into endless wait. Every second without action became its own kind of battle on the alien flagship. The atmosphere grew tense. Soldiers whispered too much, their discipline thinning. Claws tapped against consoles, tails twitched with unease. The silence was no longer empty. It was crushing. Every alien on the bridge felt as if the warship was staring directly at them, studying them, waiting for them to crack. One young officer broke the silence, "Captain. They cannot keep this up forever." "Their silence must mean weakness," he insisted. The captain turned his head slowly, his eyes sharp. "Do not mistake silence for weakness," he replied. "They are waiting. And waiting is a weapon." The officer lowered his eyes, shame burning on his face. But the doubts still lingered in the room. The second-in command leaned closer to the captain. "Morale is slipping. They are losing their edge," he warned. "If this continues, they might break without a single shot." The captain's claws pressed deeper into the steel armrest. That was exactly what he feared. The warship had not attacked, but it had already begun to win. The fleet's sensors kept searching. The warship's readings were strange. Sometimes its signature flared strong. Sometimes it faded like a shadow. No system could give a clear answer. It was as if the humans wanted their enemies confused, wanted them blind. Every failed scan added more frustration. Every unanswered question made the fear worse. A ripple of panic spread through one of the smaller ships. A junior commander sent a request to fire a test shot. The request spread across channels before it was silenced. The captain growled in. "Fury, one wrong move and they will destroy us," he snapped. His voice echoed through the comms. But even his warning did not erase the fear. The human warship shifted again, just slightly. Only enough to remind them it was alive. Its cannons turned slow and deliberate. The alien fleet froze as the weapons aimed in their direction. No shots came, no beams of fire, but every alien soldier felt their chest tighten. They could almost imagine what would happen if those cannons opened. The image was enough to paralyze them. On the bridge, one soldier whispered what they all thought. "They are toying with us." The captain did not correct him, because he knew it was true. The humans were not in a hurry. They wanted the aliens to break themselves, and piece by piece, they were succeeding. The second-in-command finally spoke again. "Captain, we must act soon, or we will collapse from within." But the captain shook his head, to act without. "Control is the same as surrender," he said. "We wait, because they want us to strike first, and if we do, we will not survive." The tension grew unbearable in mess halls and crew quarters. Alien soldiers whispered rumors. Some swore the warship was alive. Others said it was a ghost ship, haunted by human spirits of war. Every story spread faster than commands, and every story ended with the same truth fear. The warship moved closer once more. Its engines pulsed with deep light. Its armored sides glowed faintly in the dark. Closer. Closer, without haste. The alien fleet locked their weapons tighter. Every claw hovered over the fire controls. One spark, one mistake, and the void would ignite. Inside the flagship, the captain stood tall, his eyes never leaving the monstrous vessel. He felt the pressure in his chest. The weight of thousands of eyes on him. He could sense his soldiers crumbling, but he also knew one thing. If the humans wanted to end them, they already would have. The waiting was not mercy. It was judgment. The human warship slowed again. It hovered at the edge of striking range, its cannons glowing faintly, still silent, still patient. The captain whispered to himself, "This is not war, this is a test." The fleet understood the truth. They were no longer facing machines or soldiers, they were facing willpower itself. The willpower of a species that had built their history on endless conflict. The tension in the void grew tighter. Every alien heart pounded faster. Every alien claw trembled harder. The silence itself screamed louder than weapons. The standoff had become unbearable. And yet the humans showed no sign of breaking. They stood calm, steady, unshaken, and the aliens realized something that chilled their blood. The humans were not waiting to attack. They were waiting for the aliens to destroy themselves.